Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at understanding our flex fuel tuning logic found in our Gen 3 control module programming. Whether you're an F-150 or a Mustang, we can do a flex fuel tune so that we're able to put in whatever the amount of ethanol or petrol blend into our fuel system and have our engine control module deliver the appropriate amount of fuel and spark according to the ethanol content. This is really key because we have the flexibility to fill up whenever we want with ethanol or petrol and get the desired performance out of our engine. So if we want a little bit higher performance, more horsepower, more torque out of our Gen 3, we can run higher ethanol content. And the Gen 3 engines respond pretty well to running ethanol fuel. So you're definitely going to see a bump in power and a bump in torque by simply putting ethanol fuel in your system. Now you have to turn on the flex fuel feature to make this work. And you do have a lot of tables to hand populate with data. So we're going to go over in this tutorial how the system works, the fundamentals, what we need to change within our calibration file. We're going to have a template applicator file to turn on some basic logic, but we do have a lot of other tables to hand fit our data. I'll be talking about how to do all of that here from start to finish. And then we'll also just talk about, just in general, the advantages of running ethanol and using an Excel spreadsheet calculator to describe how our fueling modeling works within the flex fuel feature. It's actually really, really simple, but extremely effective. So we have a lot to cover. We're not going to be taking a look at doing any tuning in this tutorial. We're going to save that for another tutorial so I can show you the process from start to finish. I wanted to be very, very specific with this tutorial so we can see everything that's needed to be updated in our file and we don't miss anything because there are a lot of things that have to be changed. And some people have issues with going over to flex fuel because they're going to be missing one or two variables that make the feature work. So we're going to be covering everything from start to finish here in our file prep and understanding how this feature is going to work. So let's open up a stock file so we can begin our training tutorial. Then we'll apply our template applicator file to turn on the basics for the flex fuel. It's going to be essentially enabling logic, but then we have to go in and translate a lot of data and hand fit data. We'll be using an F-150 file that's flex fuel based as a reference point using the compare feature so we can see what tables are different. And then what we need to do to prep, we can steal some of the information from a flex fuel F-150 file, but the majority of what we have to change does have to be hand fit for our file, especially for a Mustang. Let's go in and open up a file and take a look and get started with our tutorial. We're going to go up here to File. Let's go to Open. We're going to open up a stock file. This is in our main training course, HPT Gen 3 Coyote, sample calibration file subfolder. I'm going to go ahead and open up 2020 Mustang Auto stock. That should be good for a file reference here for the tutorial. I'm going to go up here to engine and let's go here from general over to fuel. And then from fuel, we'll go to the last tab here, flex fuel. This is where we turn on the basic programming logic for the flex fuel feature to work. We're going to find we have our master enable, disable that's going to turn it on or off. Then we also have our inference table. This is going to be some of the learning that goes on. We'll talk about how that learning process works here. Then we also have our blending curves. The blending curves apply to allow a blending function between the normal petrol table and then a flex fuel based table. So for example, if we're taking a look, let's jump over here to, let's go to our exhaust, for example. We're going to see that there's an exhaust gas temperature. This is a good example of the blending tables. The exhaust temp here is for pure petrol. Then we're going to find that we have an exhaust temp for flex fuel. So these two tables are used or in play when flex fuel logic is enabled, and a blending table is going to tell the engine control module how much it's going to be using from this table versus how much it's going to be using from this table based on the ethanol content. So we'll find that essentially we have a sliding scale that's going to be doing a lookup between these two tables. And depending on how much ethanol we're running in our system, how much ethanol content we have, it'll be using more of one table or the other, or it can be doing a full blend between both. So that's how those tables are going to work. So let's go here to fuel, back under flex fuel, and let's turn on the basics for our flex fuel logic just to get that out of the way. Then we'll go through, we'll talk about some of the fundamentals here, some things to understand, and then we're going to jump into hand editing our calibration file and getting everything in order. So let's use that template file here. Let's go to edit. Let's go to template applicator. Let's go here to file open tune template. And let's jump into our training course folder. So HPT Gen 3 Coyote. Let's go to our template files. Let's go here to our flex fuel file. And let's go here then to flex fuel. So this is going to be turning on all of this information or translating all this information into our file. This is coming from a OEM Ford flex fuel based file. So we're just turning on what Ford uses for a flex fuel equipped vehicle. And then we're going to tweak and adjust some things that'll describe what those changes need to happen in this section here. But this is the baseline of turning on our flex fuel logic. So we can see here everything has been imported except our flex fuel blend curve injection timing. There's an exception. It looks like this operating system that I'm using is missing that particular table here, so it didn't translate that over. We do see there's an injection timing right here, but it looks like the file that we were translating it from probably didn't have this injection timing blend curve here. So we can hand fill that in. That's not a big deal. So we've turned on the flex fuel logic. We can see right here, flex fuel has been enabled. We do not need a flex fuel sensor for this to work. And in fact, the way that the flex fuel logic actually functions, it takes a look at the long-term fuel trims, and it actually absorbs all the long-term learning into helping it understand what the ethanol content's going to be in our fuel system. So the short-term fuels trim is still functioning. Everything is still doing its normal operation, so that whatever the lambda error is, the difference between the target and the actual lambda, it's still going to be adjusting and making those adjustments on the fly and in real time. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.